Yehovah is with us. And he is the one who guides our steps. And that when we are praying to him, we don't need to be asking him what we should do in a certain situation. Basically, he has given us his word, he's given us his counsel, and that should cover all of the situations in our life. If there's a specific situation and a specific choice that needs to be made in that moment, then going to Yehovah for what we should do is not fruitful. If we're waiting on his decision on things that are inherently our decision, then it can just lead to frustration, and it can also lead people astray and lead people into thinking that the decisions of their own mind are what Yehovah has said to do. They'll say things like, this kind of revelation came to me and I have peace with it. And they take things like that as Yehovah directly instructing them as to what to do. The word tells us what right and wrong is. So if we have a decision about which way to turn, left or right in the street, there's no point in praying to Yehovah and asking him, should I turn to the left or should I turn to the right? He's told us the guidelines within which we can operate, so we can actually make the decision to turn whichever way we want in the street. As long as we're not breaking his word, then it is good with him, whichever one we choose. But people get very kind of caught up in the idea of asking Yehovah about decisions in their life. Now, there's an important caveat to that. Yehovah guides our steps, and we should ask him for his guidance. But he doesn't need to tell us beforehand how he's going to guide us. We should trust him that he is with us in all situations. So if we walk to the left, we choose to take the left-hand path, Yehovah will be with us in that. And if he doesn't want us to take the left-hand path, we won't take it, because he will change events so that we take the right-hand path. He will cause something for us to change our decision if he wants to. But for the large part, our decisions are our domain. As long as it's not sin, then it's okay for us to make the decisions in our own life. It's very much like when he brought all the animals to Adam and he asked Adam to name the animals. He didn't have Adam pray to him as to what the names should be. He was happy to look on Adam and what Adam decided to choose as the animals' names rather. And that's true in our life as well. He's happy to look upon us, and as long as we're heeding his counsel and we're walking according to his word, it's okay for us to make those decisions. I said last time that people, going through life sometimes can seem confusing. It can seem overwhelming, and so the tendency, what seems comfortable to our minds is, well, I'm not going to make any decision about which way I should go. I'm going to leave all of that in Yehovah's hands. And what that actually amounts to is testing Yehovah. You don't rely upon him to tell you what decision to make. You do rely on him to guide your path, and you absolutely should be praying to him for his guidance to guide your steps, and for you to make plans, but for him to guide your steps. That's absolutely good to pray for, but it's not good to ask him what his decision is in a decision that we have in our lives, nor is that scriptural. There's actually also been a great deal of secular study done on the topic of revelation, receiving revelation about things. And what these secular scientists have found, they will then say, well, this is what Christians are doing when they're praying to God. And they're right, it is what they're doing. And what it amounts to is when you have some quiet time to think about something, like when you're praying and you're asking what decision you should make, revelation can come to you about things in your life. And secular people have exactly the same experience as Christians will have, and Christians will call it revelation from God, when in fact it's not. It's just, it appears to be the way that Yehovah has designed us in order for solutions to kind of crystallize in our mind, the way that he's designed our mind. The difference should be with believers, Torah keepers, Christians, whatever you want to call yourselves, that you are familiar with the word of Elohim and you act in accordance with it and in fear of him. So this revelation that comes to you will be in alignment with the word, and that is good. You train yourself in the word so that when you do make these decisions about which way to go, they are in alignment with the word. And that's what Yehovah expects. But as I say, secular people have these moments of revelation too. What we must not do is have a moment of revelation about something and then call that Yehovah speaking to us, because that's not what it is. And to label something as Yehovah speaking to you when it's not is something that he finds abhorrent. He speaks very strongly against people who come up with things in their own minds, in their own hearts, and then call that the word of Yehovah, that they've been instructed by Yehovah. So we shouldn't attribute to him things that we have received as revelation, if you like. As I say, people all over the world receive these sorts of revelation. And if we take that and we say, oh, I just had this idea come to me and now I have peace with it, and therefore that is God himself telling me to do that thing, that is very bad. When we have these moments of revelation, when whatever it is crystallizes and we decide the direction, that seems to be the way that he's designed us to be, and all sorts of people have that experience. So I think, I used this picture last time as well, I think that one of the things which causes people to do this, and how it seems to me, is that people are fearful about the future. They're fearful about making decisions. So what they want to do is to put it all on God and say, well, I prayed about it and I got an answer, so that's what I did. So if any bad things happen in the future, it's all put on God, and it must have been what God wanted me to do for some greater purpose or something like that, rather than just saying, well, I make the decisions in my own life. I ask him to guide my steps in everything, so that if I'm going to do something foolish, he guides my steps away from that. That's what we should be doing. But there's a huge difference in him commanding us to do something and us kind of deciding to do something, deciding that that's good and that we've got peace with doing that, and then calling that revelation from God. In Ecclesiastes 11:4-6, it says, he who watches the wind does not sow, he who looks at the clouds does not reap. As you do not know what is the way of the wind, or how the bones grow in the womb of her who is with child, so you do not know the works of Elohim, who makes all. So if you're always looking and you're always watching the wind and you won't sow, if you're always looking at the clouds trying to determine what is the future here, then you will never reap. You don't know what Elohim will do. You don't know how he's going to guide your path. All of that is Elohim's realm, what he should be doing, what he has control over. But what people kind of want to do is to have like a voyeuristic insight into Elohim's realm. Leave those things which Elohim is in charge of in his control, because the likelihood is you're not going to be able to understand it all or put it all together, even if he told you a bit of what the future is or a bit of what he was going to do. It's much better for us to do what we know is in accordance with what is right, to make plans ourselves that are in accordance with his word, and then leave to him the guidance of our steps, leading us here or leading us there, leading us to something or away from something. Verse 6 says, sow your seed in the morning, and until evening do not let your hand rest, since you do not know which prosper, this or that, or whether both alike are good. You don't know what the outcome is going to be. Just do according to what his word says to do. Make decisions for yourself about what you're going to do. Ask him to guide you away from bad things towards good things, and to be intimately involved in your life like you would want of a real life father, or a physical world father. Of course, he is a real life father. Ecclesiastes 11:9 says, rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart gladden you in the days of your youth. And walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these Elohim brings you into judgment. And that is the key. Walk in the ways of your heart and in the sight of your eyes. Make your own decisions, live your own life, but know that for everything you do, Elohim will bring you into judgment. So make sure that it is in accordance with his word. And as you're going about it, ask him to guide your steps and to be with you. Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, a man's heart plans his way, but Yehovah establishes his steps. So invite that guidance, because this is the way that it is. You can plan things in your heart, and if you want Yehovah to be involved and ask him for guidance, then he can change the course of your path. We've looked at Jeremiah before, who was told to go and speak to the king of Judah, and he went to do that according to how he thought it should be done. And as he was leaving the city, he got arrested, which would have seemed like a terrible thing to him. But by being arrested, he was put in a place where he could speak to the king of Judah. So Yehovah was guiding his steps. He was planning his way, but Yehovah was establishing his steps. And that's what we should desire, rather than saying, Father, tell me what I should do next. He's already told us what is good. Proverbs 19 verse 21 says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but it is the counsel of Yehovah that stands. Don't think, oh, maybe I'll make the wrong decision. Maybe I'll do something which is against Elohim's will, against his plan. Because his counsel will stand. Whatever you decide, whatever you plan in your heart to do, if he wants you to do something else, that's exactly what you will end up doing. And he's with us. He cares for us. He's with us. He guides our steps as we make our plans. So you gain a good understanding from his word of what is good. And then as you plan your way through life in accordance with what is good, then he is in the background guiding your steps. Or actually, probably more accurately, he's in the foreground guiding your steps. He is the one who will make your plans come to fruition, or he'll guide you somewhere else. It's why we're told to not say, next week I'm going to such and such a city. But we should say, Yah willing, or God willing, I will go to such and such a city. Because we make the plans, but if they're not in accordance with his will, they will not come about. Ezekiel 13, 2-3 is a stark warning against having these moments of revelation, deciding something in our hearts, and then saying it came from Yehovah. So, Son of man, prophesy against the prophets of Israel who prophesy, and say to those who prophesy out of their own heart, hear the word of Yehovah. Thus said the Master Yehovah, woe to the foolish prophets who are following their own spirit without having had a vision. And that's how people are when they have revelation which comes from themselves. And because it came to them in a moment and they don't understand the mechanism by which it came to them, they attribute that to Yehovah doing it. But Yehovah warns us very, very strongly against doing that. He abhors it when people represent things from their own hearts and from their own minds as being from him. So we should absolutely seek to distance ourselves from any kind of thinking like that. And if you've done it ignorantly in the past, then repent. Acknowledge that it is not good and repent and turn away from it. And of course, Yehovah, all he wants for his children is to lead them to what is good. And, maybe in the past, he has allowed in your ignorance, he has reached you in that moment, in that way, because he is able to reach you in that way. But we shouldn't seek to try and have Yehovah communicate with us in a way which is not scriptural. We should always seek him as he is, because that is the best that we could expect. Proverbs 21 verse 30 says, there is no wisdom or understanding or counsel against Yehovah. You can use all the plans of your own heart. You can come up with all the plans of your own heart, but there is nothing that will stand against Yehovah. So don't worry that you're going to make the wrong decision and it's going to be against what he actually wants. Isaiah 45, 9-13 says, woe to him who strives with his maker, a potsherd with the potsherds of earth. Does clay say to him who forms it, what are you making? Or your handiwork, say he has no hands? Woe to him who says to his father, what are you bringing forth? Or to the woman, what are you laboring over? Thus said Yehovah, the set apart one of Israel and his maker, do you ask me about my sons, what is to come? And about the work of my hands, do you command me? And it's kind of another thing that people do. They have these moments of revelation, let's call it, and then they decide what Yehovah is telling them he's going to do in the future, and then they move towards that outcome as if Yehovah told them that he was going to do something in the future. And then they try to, having gleaned this voyeuristic knowledge of the future, they try to then create that future in their own lives. I have made the earth and created man on it. My hands have stretched out the heavens, and all their host I have commanded. I have stirred him up in righteousness, and all his ways I make straight. He builds my city and lets my exiles go. Not for price nor reward, declares Yehovah Sabaoth. And he's talking about Cyrus here. He was able to guide Cyrus's steps to do what he desired for Cyrus to do. So we shouldn't inquire about the future. What are you bringing forth, Yehovah? We should leave those things in his hands. He's more than capable. Think of all the things that he's done. He made the earth and created man on it. And he brought about all the events of history. Why would we think to stop him and say, I need to know what the future is before I can continue in my journey? I'm just waiting on you to do whatever it is. Or I've decided that you're bringing this thing forth, and so I'm going to help you do it. He doesn't need our help. Leave what's in his hands to him and take what's in our hands in our hands. Make decisions for ourselves and live our own lives, knowing that He is ultimately in control.